here. We already know we live on Urban View. Hey, Instagram. Hey, YouTube. Hey, girls. How y'all doing? We got a lot to get to today on the Lurie Daniel Favors show. So let's just dive into it. First things first, we're going to do a little moment in white history, which we have not done in a while. But y'all know I love my moments in white history. And for me, it's important for us to realize that Black history to me, it speaks to the amazing, wonderful, awesome, and dynamic things that we do as Black people. Black history is the accomplishments that we have, the way that we support each other, the way that we overcome, the way that we triumph. That's Black history. White history is the evil things that white people have done to us that Black people have had to navigate. Now, obviously, navigating those things is also a part of Black history, but it's the white history part that I want to focus on, because sometimes we be claiming as Black history our survival of the evil things that they did, and that don't feel right to me. I don't feel like our ancestors really appreciate that. So today's moment in white history is about the criminal legal system. And this is really important because, particularly for those of you who have been paying attention to what's going on with immigration, and who have been paying attention to what's been going on with the devolution in rights, we now know that the Supreme Court is going to be here actually taking up a case on birthright citizenship, which is insane because they resolved this question on birthright citizenship, which we talked about last week, over 90 years ago. But they're looking at it again because of one Donald J. Trump. And so I want people to be clear about what this means for the criminal legal system. And so I thought that because today is April 22nd, also Earth Day, but today is April 22nd, and it is a day that the Supreme Court also said, hey, man, we know racism is a thing, but we just gonna deal with it. We just gonna accept it as it is. Let me get into the story so that you understand the implications for what it means now that we are aware that the Supreme Court is going to be revisiting birthright citizenship later on this term. According to the Equal Justice Initiative, shout out to them, love them, an organization founded by one of my favorite law professors, Brian Stevenson, on April 22nd, today in 1987. The Supreme Court rejected a Black man's death penalty appeal that was based on claims of racial inequality. So this Black man he's sentenced to death, Warren McCluskey. He's sentenced to death. He was convicted of killing a white police officer, and so he was then sentenced to die. But he inserted as part of his legal arguments this idea that there was racial inequalities that were baked into his sentencing and his conviction. And essentially, they said that the Supreme Court heard his argument and was like, well, yes, racism certainly is a part of why you were convicted. Racism, certainly, anti-Blackness, absolutely, definitely a part of the reason why so many Black people are convicted. But it's inevitable because racism, it's inevitable. And since we, the whites, have decided that this system that we created artificially out of the thin freaking white air, we decided that this was a system that was going to benefit us and curse all of you to damnation and hell, well, then, of course, you are going to suffer the harm of the racism in the system. They basically was like, yeah, you did prove that statistically speaking, you're more likely to be convicted as a Black man. And if you are more likely to be convicted as a Black man, you're also more likely to be sentenced, convicted, and sentenced to the death penalty. But hey, that's just a function of you being Black and of us being racist. And we can't do much about that. So auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. In October 1978, Warren McCluskey, convicted of killing this white police officer during robbery, sentenced to death. On appeal, his lawyers, according to the Equal Justice Initiative, argued that Georgia's capital punishment system, their death penalty system, was racially biased. And they said that this racial bias was in violation of the 8th Amendment prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment and the 14th Amendment. And to support their argument, the lawyers introduced statistics. And the statistics that they had is basically the same statistics that we all know and we use today that show the criminal legal system is racist. And they was used, I mean, that ain't news. That ain't news. And they introduced these statistics, and the statistical evidence demonstrated that race significantly impacts the likelihood of a death sentence. So you just showing up in the courthouse in a Black ass body, you're more likely to be sentenced to death if capital punishment is a part of it. And again, the Supreme Court was like, yes, yep, that's true. What's the problem? What's the problem? We're not understanding. We are confusion. We don't know what the problem is. David Baldus, a professor out of University of Iowa, had engaged in this really robust statistical analysis. They looked at more than 2,000 cases of murder in Georgia. And what they found was that based on the statistics was that the prosecutors in Georgia, shocking no one, the prosecutors in Georgia were much more, quote, much more likely to seek the death penalty. And juries were more likely to impose a death penalty in cases involving Black defendants and white victims. Even even after controlling for crime-specific variables, the Baldus study concluded that Black defendants who were accused of killing white victims faced the highest likelihood of receiving the death penalty. So the Supreme Court heard this and was like, that tracks. What do the kids say? That clocks. What y'all do? I mean, the clock the T, whatever y'all do with the little finger. I don't know what they be doing. My daughter be like, clock it, mommy, clock it. So clock it, I guess the Supreme Court was like, clock it. Okay. So this decision came down to 5-4. 5-4 decision. And the Supreme Court basically, on the thinnest of grounds, said that the Baldus study, yep, you are correct. There is racism in the criminal justice system. And Clem, Vern, did you see this white lawyer just prove to us how racist we are? And he just showed us that we are, in fact, racist. He sure did, Vern. He sure did. That white boy was right. Too bad we ain't gonna do shit about it. That's basically where it ended. The court accepted the study's findings as valid, but then held that the evidence was not enough to reverse the conviction because you proved that generally we're all racist against the blacks. I mean, fine. But did you prove that any specific individual in this system intentionally discriminated against you? So yes, we are racist generally speaking, but I'm going to sit here and clutch my alabaster pearls because I do declare you did not demonstrate that any specific white had demonstrated any specific form of racial bias against your specifically black ass. And Justice William Brennan just says, you see what they just did, right? Because he was in the dissent, and he was like, you see what they just did? They said you can't have no justice because if we give you justice, then we got to give it to everybody. And we're white supremacists. We're definitely not going to do that. And so they essentially upheld the constitutionality of racially biased death penalties in America. They said, yes, you are more likely to be put to death as a black in this country. And yes, this is a country that has a whole lot of lynching in its background, but damn it, who are we if we're not going to refuse to do anything about that injustice? And so now that we realize that this is the same Supreme Court body that is going to be relitigating or hearing additional litigation as it pertains to birthright citizenship, keeping in mind that black people only got citizenship in this country because of the 14th Amendment, which they're about to reinterpret. I just suggest that we are all be aware of what's happening because this is going to be a whole ass problem. It's going to be a whole ass problem. But moving on, did y'all, you know how like when there's a hurricane coming and you hear the siren? I don't even want to do that actually, because every time my husband and I are in the car and we hear a siren like in a radio or in a commercial ad, both of us get tense. So let me not even do that. But you know, you hear the sound of like a tornado warning, or you hear the sound of, you know, nuclear fallout, or like every municipality that has funds basically has an alarm system and warning system that tells people when danger is coming. Well, the federal government has one of those for chemical disasters, because one thing Americans are going to do is create chemical disasters. And the Environmental Protection Agency had a data tool that essentially mapped out all the locations of thousands of dangerous chemical facilities. According to the Lever, chemical industry lobbyists, however, were lobbying the Trump administration to get rid of that tool, because these are the same people who don't like regulations. Because remember, regulations basically means rules that are put into place to prevent you from doing things that you would otherwise do because it's cheaper for you. So like if I make widgets, and a part of my widgets include I'm creating widget sludge that is poisonous to the air, poisonous to the water, poisonous to the food, poisonous to the surrounding community, but it costs a lot of money to get rid of. And I would rather, because I am white and I am welfare. How dare you assert that I should be responsible for cleaning up the messes that I make? I made that mess for profit. Damn it. And because I made it for profit, I can't also be responsible for cleaning it up. And regulations would make me have to clean it up. Chemical trackers that would show that I had just spilled my widget sludge in your community, that would be useful for you to come to me and then say, hey, Lurie, you who own, as a white woman, the widget sludge making factory, you now have to pay us for all the sludge that you just put into our community. Well, damn it. You can't accuse me of putting sludge in your community if we get rid of the data, if we get rid of the tools. And I, for one, am going to lobby that the government do just that. And apparently it works. See, it works to pay off your elected officials when you live in Trump America, when you live in MAGA America, because they don't have actual qualifications because they're WEI. White, entitled, and incompetent. According to the environmental activists, the website that had the data map that contained all the locations of the more than 12,000. Did I mention 12,000? 12,000 chemical spills that are currently spillage and are in the process of being cleaning up. I bet you won't find that tool available for you anymore. You know why? because the wealthy whites had gotten rid of it. Apparently, a spokesperson for Coming Clean, which is an environmental health group, told the Lever that their organization was very surprised to see the webpage had been taken down because they had just on Friday been able to access the information. Just on Friday. And now, good luck, mining country. Good luck to all of you next to factories and industrial space. Oh, wait, that's us. That's them, our folks. That's our people. According to the report, communities near these chemical facilities suffer high rates of pollution, harmful chemical exposure, frequently face evacuation orders from chemical fires, like y'all in Atlanta. Remember in Atlanta just last year when you were engulfed in a cloud of toxic chlorine gas and ain't nobody knew what was happening? This was right around the election. And you also these communities tend to be more poor. They tend to have less resources, which makes it even more difficult for the people living in them to hold people like the wealthy whites who own all the factories. It makes it more difficult to hold them accountable. And now the tool that you used to do that is also gone. Good luck to all of us. Good luck also to defense. What is her name? Kristi Noem. Kristi, the dog killing Noem. She is the secretary of, Homeland Security. Yeah, she's the secretary of Homeland Security. She's the one that cosplays, like one day she's a firefighter in Homeland Security. The next day she's an ICE agent Homeland Security. Next day she's a stepmother Homeland Security. The next day she's a Debbie Does Dallas Homeland Security. I don't know, but she's always cosplaying some other form of criminal apparatus of which she is not a part. She's in a restaurant. And Kristi the dog killer, I call her Kristi the dog killer no, because she is famous for having killed her puppy, which she was training to be a hunter, but that dog didn't hunt. And so then she put the dog down. So the dog ain't never going to hunt until the dog is in the great hunting paradise of the sky. And she wrote about this in her book while she was auditioning for Donald Trump to hire her to do exactly what she's doing right now. But this chick is at a restaurant. She's at a restaurant. Now, the Homeland Security supposed to be pretty safe. She's at a whole ass restaurant with her bag. And she's in dinner, and she's got like a lot of stuff in her bag, like all of us. Like I usually carry my phone in my bag. I have sometimes nail polish because if my nails chip, I don't like that. I like to redo the nails, and my makeup and my wallet. More my phone than my wallet because I can do everything on my phone even if I forget my wallet. So I got a lot of things in my bag. I don't usually walk around with $3,000 cash. In fact, I can assure you I have never walked around with $3,000 cash because that's given MS-13, right? Isn't that what they accused Fonnie Willis of having cash? Didn't they say she was a drug dealer? That is given drug dealer, Kristi Noem. But apparently Kristi Noem had $3,000 cash in her bag. She had her cell phone in her bag. I'm assuming it's the same cell phone that she was on Signalgate with Pete, his own mama said he's trash Hexeth with. But all of it got. She got jacked. She got stole from. They took her money. They took her bag. They took her phone. And apparently there's allegations that the reason she's got $3,000 in her bag is because she allegedly, supposedly is engaged in the nature of indelicate affairs, emphasis on affairs and the indelicate nature thereof. And so as a result, neither she nor her paramour, who is rumored to be Corey Lewandowski apparently is the rumored paramour, and neither of them would like to have to put anything of expense on a credit card. I don't know anything about this. I just know that was a part of the report that I'm sharing with you, that our Department of Homeland Security is so freaking unsecure, so freaking unsafe that she got jacked while at a restaurant. Where was the security? I'm not feeling very safe either with the racists, the dog killers, or the dead baby bear hunting Department of Health and Human. These people are insane. These people are insane. And speaking of Pete, his own mama said he's trash Hexeth. Apparently they're looking for a new one. They're looking for a new Pete because being white, entitled, and incompetent makes you really bad at being the head of the military. So they're looking at hiring or finding another Department of not Homeland Security. That's Kristi Noem. What is he? Oh, Department of Defense. Right. Just, the major decision-making bodies. I also really quickly want to let you know that China has continued its lockdown on the rare earths minerals. And according to today's Financial Times, if we don't get a resolution, we need a resolution. If we don't get a resolution to these American harebrained Donald Trump cockamamie bullshit ass tariffs, China's like, the minerals you need for magnets for your cars, your batteries, your devices. And you know how we're the only ones on the planet that can process them? Baby, what you're not going to get is their minerals. And they're continuing with this halt and hold on these rare earth minerals. According to the report, rare earth metals are commonly found in the Earth's crust, but are very difficult to extract at low cost and in an environmentally friendly nature. But China doesn't have that problem. China's got this down to a science. And according to the way they are implementing these controls, they've only put a hold hold on 7 of these minerals, of the hard or heavy rare earth minerals. There's a whole other additional portion of rare earth minerals that they have not yet touched, that they plan to touch if America keeps trying to buck. Look, if you book, right? And America's not ready. So anyway, we got a lot to get to today. I wanted to let you know about that. Buy a car if you need a car, whatever devices you got to get, you better get them. Also, if you are part of the low prescription drug community, I'm going to need you to also pay attention, because Donald Trump is also talking about issuing tariffs against prescriptions, pharmaceuticals, which we don't make in this country. So if you need medicines for like cancer, if you need medicines for Alzheimer's, if you need medicines for a whole host of issues and diseases that you have typically gone to your health store or your grocery store or your pharmacy to get access to your medicinals, you might want to stock up, baby, because once they implement tariffs for that, ain't gonna be nothing on the shelves. Ain't gonna be nothing on the shelves. We gotta go. Rhiannon Giddens is going to be with us talking about Black folk, talking in country. And I just saw Sinners yesterday, so I'm very much in my Black music mode right now. Lots to get to today. Much more to come on the Lurie Daniel Favorite Show. Instagram, we appreciate you. Bye-bye. Have a great rest of your day. YouTube, I appreciate you and all the super supports and love. Yeah, we'll be right back after this. Hold on, YouTube. Is my mic still up? Okay. Oh, they can't hear me anymore. Okay. Sorry, y'all can't hear me. All right.
That was different.
Thank you, YouTube.
I thought that was
love you. I thought so too. All right. Bye. YouTube, I don't think y'all can hear me anymore. Bye. Oh, they can still hear me. Hi, y'all. How you doing? All right. We got to go real quick. But everybody doing okay? I appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Y'all have been great. Everybody been behaving in the chat? Because y'all know I can't see the chat when I'm actually on air. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Make sure you like and subscribe. Okay, I'm scrolling. Oh, I saw yesterday, y'all were saying shout out to TMFJ. Yes, I'm echoing that. Shout out to TMFJ. I was going to try to hang out with y'all a little bit after we went to commercial break, but I wasn't able to do it. We've gone from the inmates running the asylums to taking the doors off the hinges. Yes. That's basically where we're at. All right, I got to go to commercial break. We're going to be talking Black country music in just a bit, but I love y'all, appreciate y'all, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye, YouTube. Okay.